Hello, and welcome to Control Alt Human, a place we like to wrinkle our brains and update the mental software. Today we're going to be learning about something that everybody has experience with, everybody has given and received at some point in their lifetimes, an apology. Now, when do we give an apology? We give an apology when we have messed up in some way, when we've violated an agreement, an expectation. Somebody apologizes to us when they have befoogled their nonsense in some way, that in order to maintain the relationship, to maintain the status, an apology is needed. When do we accept an apology? We accept an apology when we believe the other person, when we believe that they will fix their nonsense, that they will attempt to repair the relationship, that they will try not to do it again. Outside of these very real human connection things, these belief, the facial expressions, the tone of voice, the ways in which we read each other as people, outside of those, what can you say? What do you do? Like, what can you say that will make an apology that will work? What do you say when you need to apologize to somebody and you want it to work? Recently, 3 professors, Roy Lewitsky, Robert Lount, and Beth Poland, did 2 studies on structural elements of an apology. Essentially, what you can say that will make an apology more effective, that will make an apology that's likely to work. And what they found is they found 6 common elements. 6 elements that go into the most effective apologies. Now, what they did was they did 2 studies. The first one was comprised of 333 adults recruited from the Amazon Turk Engine, and the second one was 422 undergraduate students. And they gave both of these groups the same scenario. An employee who's applying for a position filed incorrect codes on a tax return, and as a result of these codes, they ended up getting a larger return. Now, this information is presented to the employee, and they apologize. Between the 2 studies, they rated each of these elements individually and of groupings together, and found that while some elements are more important than others, and they are, they found that the more elements you included in your apology, the more likely it was to be successful. And the 6 elements they found, for this video, we're going to use the acronym FERER. Why? Because when we put them in reverse order, FERER is what we come up with. So, FERER, the request for forgiveness, remorse, repentance, an explanation of what happened, but also an offer of repair and an acknowledgement of responsibility. The first one is the request for forgiveness. This one is, of the 6, probably the least effective, but still very important. If for whatever reason you had to leave one off for time constraints or whatever else, that could be the one, just go ahead. But the request for forgiveness is important. It's important because of the 6, it's the one that actually directly engages the individual to whom we're apologizing, directly engages the victim, the one to whom we're apologizing, and asks them for action, asks them to forgive us, to make the effort to actively forgive us, and engages the other person. The next one is remorse. Now, the remorse is the actual I'm sorry. I feel badly for my part in the event horizon boo-boo, mess up, mistake that I'm apologizing for, that has caused you pain in some way. I am sorry. Remorse. Repentance is what you have learned, why it was wrong. I understand that my actions were wrong because A, B, C. I know now that I should have done D, E, F. The way I can do better going forward is Y, M, C, A. The repentance is what you could have done better. It's what you've learned, what was wrong. I'm sorry that these things that I know now were incorrect contributed to your pain, contributed to why I'm apologizing. The next thing we have is an explanation of what went wrong. Now this one's pretty self-explanatory. What happened? What was going on in your mind, my mind, our mind, during and before the event horizon, the big mistake, the thing to which we are apologizing? It may or may not be big, but the boo-boo, the mistake, the discrepancy. What was going on? What were the circumstances that led us to that decision? What were we thinking? An explanation of what went wrong allows the other person to understand where we were coming from, and even in a way empathize with how we had gotten to that decision, so that we can come to a mutual ground on the matter. The last two elements, and these are actually probably the most important two, are the offer of repair and the acknowledgement of responsibility. Now, the offer of repair is important. It's so important because talk is cheap. And talk is cheap. I'm pretty sure we've all known that person who apologizes just because it sounds good, because it gets us off of their nuts and they can go back to their regular scheduled selfishness. We know that person. We all know that person. Several people. It doesn't matter, but in today's society, talk is cheap. An offer of repair is an action in the same but inverse way that the request for forgiveness requests action from the other person. We are requesting them to actively forgive us. The offer of repair is the effort and the action that we're going to put in to resolve this situation, to make amends, to bring balance back to the relationship. This is what I'm going to do to rectify this situation, to make right. The offer of repair. And in that way, it's illustrating that you're not just talking cheaply, that it actually does matter. And you've set forth actual things that can be observed and watched that you're going to do to repair the relationship. And this person can see these things and see the actual effort that you're going to do to repair the relationship. The last one is the acknowledgement of responsibility. Now this one is listed as the most important. It was studied and found to be the most important aspect of the apology. And I can see why. I'll get to my personal opinion in a minute. But the acknowledgement of responsibility is us taking responsibility and owning our part of whatever it is that we did to mess up in the first place. Whatever it is that we did that caused the other person pain, we're taking responsibility and owning our part. And it makes sense that this is the most important. As individuals, in order to learn, we must own our own actions. We must take responsibility for the things that we do. That's everybody. That's part of being a human being. And when we do that, we're able to learn. We're able to learn from our own actions, our mistakes, our triumphs, everything else. So in the context of an apology, when we own our actions and just carry that over to the actual apology, it allows the relationship to move forward. It allows the relationship to heal when you take responsibility for your part in what caused this discrepancy, this error, this pain, this mistake, whatever. I take responsibility for my actions. What I did to contribute to this is my fault. And it is. Say that it is your fault because your actions are your responsibility. All of ours are. But bringing that to the apology is probably the most important thing we can do, because from there, we can communicate with each other and grow and move together. We can solve the problem and be smarter and wiser going forward. Those are our 6 elements of the most effective apologies, as illustrated by Roy Lewitsky, Robert Lount, and Beth Poland. They didn't quite come up with Ferrer, but again, for this video, Ferrer, the request for forgiveness, remorse, repentance, the explanation of what went wrong, but also the offer of repair and acknowledgement of responsibility. Now I'd like to hear from you. Is there anything maybe you need to hear from somebody else when they've gone and befoogled their nonsense, when they've messed up and harmed you? Is there maybe things that maybe you like to do when apologizing to somebody else? Comments are welcome below. Please do comment. Let me know what you think. Let me know if there's something else you'd like a video about, something you'd like explained or you'd like to dive into. If you haven't already, shimmy over to the YouTube channel. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel. The button's right down there. Go ahead and subscribe. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Stay kind, my friends.